cost of stress. The Health and Safety Executive have reported that the cost of stress to UK business is around £530 million a year. That's around 14 million lost working days each year. Now, that doesn't take into account the people who don't lose time at work through what we now call presenteeism. That is, they're there in body but perhaps not in mind. So the real cost to the UK employers is at least 5-6 times that £514 million figure. What do we mean by stress? Well, one way of thinking about it is we all have our area of comfort, and we might call that our comfort zone. That's when life is easy and we crack on without too many issues or problems. It's also an area where we're not at our most productive. And so many employers rightly say we need to increase pressure or give people challenging targets. So this pressure moves us into what we may call our stretch zone. Problem is, if we have too much pressure, people may crack, and that's when we're getting to that stress issue. In 2013, there are a number of examples of stress-related issues for high-profile individuals. One area close to my heart was the cricket tour of Australia, where Jonathan Trott, for example, reported stress-related illnesses, forcing him to return home early from a cricket tour. Now, for what may seem a fairly sedate activity, it's intriguing that an individual is put under so much pressure that they get to that particular point. But the impact on performance was absolutely clear. One of the world's top players reduced to somebody who was scrabbling around for a few runs and not really performing anywhere near his true standard. For the rest of us, it's not always so obvious that we're under stress, and the impact on performance may not always be so obvious. However, left untouched, stress can develop further into significant mental health issues. So managing it and dealing with it makes sense for all employers. So how do we know somebody is stressed? Well, to a large extent, a lot of the signals are fairly obvious. People may seem more anxious than normal, perhaps focusing in on fairly trivial issues rather than dealing with some of the main issues that really are important to their role. We may see physiologically people seeming tense. They may sort of give off that aura of being under stress. Irritability is another symptom. People who are normally fairly calm waters suddenly reacting to everything. Mood swings or excesses, perhaps of alcohol or drugs. Perhaps people can't sleep. There's a lot of indications when people are undergoing some stress-related issues. There are a number of stress busters that can be used to reduce the impact of stress. One of the most beneficial I find is around reflective thinking. Spending time away from the hustle and bustle of the work and actually spending some me time. Doesn't have to be hours, it can be 5 or 10 minutes. Collecting our thoughts. It's really powerful to write out those issues and helps us reflect back on what is really important and perhaps what is not so important in our lives. If stress is about not being in total control, we may want to think, well, where are we putting our effort? If you think about the difference between being in control, being influencing, and things that are of concern to you in life, you can try and perhaps rebalance some of those issues. If all of our efforts is focusing on things that are slightly out of our personal control or influence, and we're not focusing on things that we can actually change, what we may find is that we get to a position where we're worrying over things that are actually not that important or not that crucial to us, and not actually spending enough time on the really important issues. So think about what you're in control of, what you can influence, and try and make sure they take the priorities for you, the urgent and important things, rather than things that are outside of your immediate control. Finally, set yourself some goals for moving forward. Think about what it is that you want to be achieving in the future rather than reflecting fully on the past. So think about achievable goals that you can take to make some steps to reducing the impact of stress and anxiety on your life. In summary, pressure can increase performance, but if we overdo it and we get to the stress point, productivity and performance will almost inevitably suffer and fall. Keep an eye out for indicators of stress both in yourself and your team. And think about some of those easy to do stress busters that can make people feel more relaxed and more in control of their life and situation.